There we go. Hi everyone, and welcome to TWF NXT. Welcome to NXT. I, Gorilla Monsoon, Edward Collins, and a Jackal here. And today on NXT, we are going to see the first start of Miko Tarantini from Above the Law, one of Steven Seagal's cells, the first cell that Steven Seagal played and the first film he ever played in. Gorilla Monsoon says, well, that's right, Edward Collins says. The film was called Miko Above the Law, or also known as Above the Law. And this is the only doll they ever made for it. And he really can't stand very well. Yeah, as you could tell, the Jackal says, whoever made this doll made it where he's always standing 1 feet apart from another. He's got his gun out, and I guess they took that from some slight of the film Mio Above the Law, a film that I never saw, and I had seen some of Steven Seagal's films, not all of them, but some of them. The Jackal says. I just don't think he's going to be a good wrestler. Or a good fighter. Would you stop? Gorilla Monsoon says. He is going to be a good wrestler. A good fighter. Even if his two hands are full of a gun. Alright everyone, it's me, Mio Tarantini, from the film Mio Above the Law, or also known Above the Law. And I'm having my first match or fight here in the toy wrestling gathering. And I want to say something. Whoever thinks they're bold enough to fight me, come on, I'm daring you to. Isn't that so? Oh, isn't it Mio Above the Law, Mio Tarantini? Still bitching about the shit that happened in the Vietnamese War? Still bitching about how you had to work with the needed wisdom, followership or gathering? But it wasn't good enough for you? And then you worked as a near law keeper in Chicago near, which is in Cox Earldom, which is in Illinois Reich, which is in the 4-1 Reichs. Yeah, and then they pulled you back in. And they ended up getting you to do the shit that you were against, so many years ago, right? Well, I don't really care. You see, at the end of the day, I could give two shits about what film you came from, or the show player, Steven Seagal, who played you in that first film. You see, at the end of the day, all I'm going to do is I'm going to beat you. Now, I know how I'll beat you, because you see, your hands are full with that gun. And we all know that in the 4-1 Reichs, gun bind is a big thing. Oh, so what are you getting at? At the end of the day, the 4-1 Reichs does have a bind with gun run and gun lead. And even though there are laws, Gavr, Reich, Earldom, and Near, about how guns can be handled, how guns can be, who can own them, who cannot, there's always going to be folks that work guns for the wrong ground's sake and why. And I know what the Settled goes. The Settled Land likes to scathe the 4-1 Reichs for not having a good lead on gun run or gun lead. Because as soon as you start saying something about how there should be harder gun laws because someone did something sinful and unlawful with a gun, the good gun owners, like law keepers, rest keepers, hunters, folks that have worked guns for the right grounder's sake, say don't handicap them for what someone did wrong. So, first off, Austin Theory, I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. And you seem to know so much about me. But then again, I think what you did was you went on Wiki one day, looked up that film, so then you could come and scathe me. And if you think that you think I will not be a good wrestler or a good fighter since I got a gun in my hand, think again. I could still hit you with this gun and knock you down. And we can always write gun with one end or two ends. It makes no unlikeness. Oh yeah, but then at the end of the day, but then again, that would make you a weakling, Mio Sarati. Anyone who has to pull a gun out or a sword out, that makes them a weakling when it comes to a fight. Yeah, and you know what else is going to happen? I'm going to hit you and knock you down with this gun. Then I'm going to get the 1, 2, 3 on you. You smart rear. Ding, ding, ding. Well, looks like this match got started. Oh! Looks like Mio Saratini, who is his forekin came from Italish land. You know, formerly Romish land. Gorilla Monsoon says. But I'm a Mantorian. But I'm Mantoriish, though. Yeah, that means that really just another term for saying, saying you're Italish or Intellish is what you're saying, the Jackal says. And he can't even wrestle, right? Because he's got that gun in his hand. Would you stop? He does got that gun in his hand, but there's nothing he can do about it. That's the way his doll was made. Yeah, not made, Jackal. Just like you can't help having one finger up in air all the time. Edward Collins says, Miko or Miko, however you say that Intellish name, or most likely that's a Hellenish borrowed name. Sartini, we don't really know much about him, but I know that he's gonna, whoa! Did you just see that? Edward Collins says. Who would have thought that a near lawkeeper, who had known that a Chicago near lawkeeper could do something like that? Edward Collins says. Is he going to do it again? No, he's not. Edward Collins said it. Downtown to Mika Saratini. Edward Collins says. This is not good at all, Gorilla Monsoon said. A fellow Intellish, or Italish, or four Mantellish folk is in a bind right now. And hopefully he can work some of that skill he learned back in the Vietnamese Land War, or as they say in Vietnamese land, the 4-1 Reichs War. Because that's really where his back saga until came from. Gorilla Monsoon said, if you saw the film or not. 1, 2, and Edward, and so far only at 2 count. And we want to do it again. But Miko taking him down. Miko with a spin kick, Gorilla Monsoon says. He's in a bind right now, Edward Collins says. He can wrestle great, even when he got his hand full of that gun, Edward Collins says. God forbid he ever works the gun, the Jackal says. Then that would be seen as sinful and unlawful. It's a toy gun. He's a doll, whatever you want to call him. So he ain't going to be doing anything sinful and unlawful with that gun, Gorilla Monsoon says. Jackal, you wouldn't know what is sinful and what is unlawful if it bit you on the behind. Gorilla Monsoon said, would you be earnest? And Miko coming back again. Miko Saratini. Oh, the 8 downtown. Austin Theory just 8 downtown to him. This is over, Gorilla Monsoon says. Yes, it is, Edward Collins said. Sadly, the Steven Seagal self, Miko Saratini, is taking a loss here today on NXT. This is great. It's great to see even Steven Seagal's self, even himself, the Steven Seagal played sundry years ago, can't even can't even beat Austin Theory, the Jackal says. 1, 2, 3. Ding, ding, ding. Harry, your winner, Austin Theory. Okay, stop him already. The match is already over. There's no need for that bullshit, Gorilla Monsoon says. Well, I never heard you curse before, Edward Collins said. I didn't think you could curse, Gorilla. Yeah, all men and we all curse. I just chose to never do it in any WWF shows over the years. But there were times where I got angry and I cursed. Sorry for that. But I'm just angry that Austin Theory, after he beat Miko Tanatini, he had to still beat him up after the match. Is that because he's a fellow Mantorian or Mantoriish like you? A fellow Italish or Intellish fellow like you? You know what Gorilla Monsoon says? My forekin came from Italish land to the 4-1 Reichs. And they were so don't say anything bad about the Morella kin. Because I could say something about the Collins kin, wherever they came from, before they went to the settled land. So don't bring it up. Alright, Edward Collins said. Gorilla Monsoon, Jackal. We just gotta say it was a great match that we saw here today on NXT. A new up and coming wrestler, fighter, as Miko Tanatini. Well, you're right, Edward Collins. He is an up-and-coming wrestler here in a toy wrestling gathering. Even though he took his first loss to Austin Theory, it was still a good match, Gorilla Monsoon says. I'll tell you one thing the Jackal says. You know, now he's a loser. It was already bad enough, that now he's a loser now. And there's no way that he's ever going to get his win back. Well, speaking of that, Jonathan Coachman now is now going to be speaking with Miko Tanatini, if I'm saying his kin name right. Alright, Gorilla Monsoon. I'm going to be talking with Miko Tanatini here today on NXT. Now, we all know things didn't quite go the way you wanted them to go. Oh no, Jonathan Coachman. I would tell you one thing right now. If Austin Theory thinks that this is over between us, or he thinks he's gotten the last laugh on me, think again. Austin Theory has been shaming folks ever since he came to the toy wrestling gathering, not showing any onlook to anyone. But I'll be hell with if he's going to shame me. At the end of the day, I'm going to get another match with Austin Theory. And when I do, Austin Theory is going to be the one who is going to learn he's going to learn a class of onlook. Because I'm going to make him onlook me. Well, some would say that you kind of went into that match at a downside because your hands are full with that gun. Yeah, but I can't help it, Jonathan Coachman. That's the way they made my doll. I can't help that. Some dolls just can't help having their weapons already in their hand. So, if Austin Theory thinks that means that I'm not done with him, think again, I am. And if I say Austin Theory, I'm going to beat him, I'm going to smack him over the head with my gun. It's getting hot in here now. Alright, that's my talk with Miko Tanatini. Back to you, Gorilla Monsoon. Well, thank you, Jonathan Coachman, for talking with Miko Tanatini here today on NXT. And I understand before we go, Gorilla Monsoon, that we will see the match tomorrow between Austin Theory and Miko Tanatini. Tomorrow in Dynamite, or Might. That's all the time we got here for NXT. I, Gorilla Monsoon, Edward Collins and a Jackal. We hope you like NXT, and we'll see you tomorrow.